So I wanted to just go through some of these problems on the review for the quiz tomorrow. All of these problems you can do by looking back at your identities. So this first section, all you're really doing is going backwards. So they give you an identity that's worked out. You have to figure which one of these identities here it matches up with and then just put it back in its original form. So here you see 2 sine 17 cosine 17. That clearly matches up perfectly with that. So all we're going to write now is sine of 2 theta, which here is 17, which then if we multiply, we would get the sine of 34. And that would be your answer. That's all you have to do for these first couple sections. All right? So here we have cosine squared 3x minus sine squared 3x. Again, that appears to be right here, so we're going to plug it into cosine of 2 theta, which here is 3x. So your answer would be the cosine of 6x. And that's your answer. Here, again, I'm just trying to see which one of my identities this matches up with. Here it matches up with this one, so I'd have tangent of 2 times 102, which would be the tangent of 204 degrees. So again, those are our 3 double angle identities that we just used. So now again, which one does this match up with? This appears to be this one here for the double angle of cosine, where theta equals 78. I'll write that just in case you're a little lost. Theta equals 78, so I'm going to plug that in here now. Cosine of 2 times 78, which is the cosine of what? 156. And you're finished. Cosine of 156 degrees. So again, these first couple are pretty elementary. You're just finding the identity that it matches up with and plugging theta back in to that identity. So here we're going cosine 2 theta. So cosine of 2 times x over 2, which is simply just cosine of x, which is your answer. Those 2's cancel out. So we continue here. That looks like it matches up with this identity. So again, we're plugging into cosine 2 theta. So cosine of 2 times 80, which is the cosine of 160. Here it looks like we get into some of our half angle formulas, so we want to look not only at the square root but also at this sign right here. That's what distinguishes the difference between cosine and sine. Here it's a minus, so it's going to be the half angle of sine, where theta is 20. So here I have the sine of theta over 2, and in this problem we see that theta equals 20. So that's going to be the sine of 20 over 2. Whoop, which ends up being the sine of 10. Having some problems with the board here. See if it works itself out. There we go. Sine of 10. And we continue. Here notice we have the plus, so this is now going to be the cosine of a half angle. Cosine of theta over 2. Here we see again theta equals 110. So we have the cosine of 110 over 2, which is the cosine of 55. And that's going to be your answer. So for the first 8, that's all you're doing. When we get into 9 through 12, I think it is, or the next couple, you actually have to solve for the exact answer. So you're still doing the same thing, trying to match up the problem with the identity. So you hear this, see this matches up with this one here. So that's going to be tan of 2 times theta, which is 5 pi over 8. So we can multiply out. Remember, this is 2 over 1, so that's going to be the tangent of 10 pi over 8, which if we simplify in here, you get the tangent of 5 pi over 4. We know anything over 4 has a reference angle of 45 degrees, so I know the tangent of 45 is 1, and I just need to now check and look at my quadrant that I'm in. This is pi, so 5 pi over 4 is going to be here. If we look at our all students take calculus, tangent's positive there. So my final answer is going to be positive 1. And that's what we're going to do for all of these. So here, again, find which one it matches up with. Here it looks like we're going to do cosine 2 theta, where theta is 105. So I have cosine of 2 times 105, cosine of 210 degrees. 210 degrees, if this is 180 here, 210 is going to be right here. The difference between those two angles is 30 degrees. So that's my reference angle. The cosine of 30 is root 3 over 2. I'm going to check my sine, ASTC. Being that it's in the third quadrant, only tangent's positive, so this is going to be negative root 3 over 2. This one looks like it matches up with the double angle of sine. So I have sine of 2 times 5 pi over 12, which is going to give me the sine of 10 pi over 12, which equals the sine, if I simplify in there, divide by 2, 5 pi over 6. And for those of you that aren't comfortable 100% in radians, remember you can always go to degrees by multiplying by 180 over pi. So this would end up being, that's going to be a 1, that's going to be a 30, so 150 degrees. So you could do this using 150 degrees as well. Sine of 5 pi over 6, I know that's 30 degrees, so that's going to be 1/2. I have to check the quadrant. Here's 150, that's 180. So again, we have 30 degrees. This is in the second quadrant, so sine will be positive. So we have a positive 1/2 there. Here we have a half angle. It looks like positive. The square root of 1 plus cosine 90 over 2 matches up with my half angle of cosine. So I have the cosine of theta, which is 90 over 2. Cosine of 45, which if we look back at our chart, is root 2 over 2. So in case you haven't noticed, those trig values that we did at the very beginning with the first competency quiz, we're still using daily. So you still need to know that chart in order to be successful with these types of problems. This last type of problem, these last two types of problems probably won't be on the quiz tomorrow. But if we look at this what we want to solve using a half angle identity. So what we want to do is multiply this by 2, and we'd get the tangent of, let's see, 390 degrees. So 390 over 2. And that may seem a little tricky because we can plug this into our identity, 1 minus cosine of 390 over sine of 390. So you think, okay, wait a second, 390 is more than 360. But remember, all we're doing here is if we go around 360 degrees, 390 would just be right here. So this angle, my reference angle, which remember is to my closest x-axis, is just going to be 30 degrees still. So that's my reference angle, 30 degrees in the first quadrant. So it's really not any different than what we've been doing. So you're going to have 1 minus the cosine of 30, which is root 3 over 2, over the sine of 30, which is 1/2. To get rid of this compound fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal of the denominator. And again, we've talked about this before, but we have to make sure you multiply the entire numerator by 2. So you'd end up with 2 minus root 3. And that's a common answer we get with these types of problems. These last types of problems are the right triangle problems when A is acute. So the first thing we want to do is draw a right triangle. This is my angle A. The sine, remember, is opposite over hypotenuse. So I have 20. My hypotenuse is 29. If I want to solve for that missing side, you could do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I have 20 squared plus b squared equals 29 squared. B squared equals 29 squared minus 20 squared. And for this, you could just punch that into your calculator. Let me pull mine up real quick. go. Must be out of batteries. 29 squared minus 20 squared. So we get 441. If we take the square root of that, I believe it is 21, but let's make sure. Yep, 21. So B is going to equal 21. So now if I want to find tan 2 of A, I'm just going to plug that in here. So 2 tan A over 1 minus tan squared A. And remember, this here is really the same thing as tan A squared. We just write it like that so we know not to square it, the A value itself. So 2 tangent of A is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. So 20 over 21 over 1 minus the tan of A, 20 over 21 squared. So this is going to end up being 40 over 21 over 1 minus 400 over 441. And then we'd have to simplify. So this is going to get a little messy here. 40 over 21 over, that's 441 minus 400 is going to be 41 over 441. And then we multiply by the reciprocal of the denominator. This is going to cancel out. This is going to be 1. This is going to be 21. So you'd get 40 times 21 over 41. So 40 times 21 over 41. So that's not going to be the prettiest answer. We can probably just leave it as 840 over 41. For the sine of A over 2, this here, you're going to do the same thing, except now we're going to just plug it into this formula here. So you have sine of A over 2. Sorry, I know this is getting a little messy. Equals plus or minus the square root. Let's try and block this off if we can. Of 1 minus cosine A over 2. Cosine A is 21 over 29. So I would get plus or minus the square root of 1 minus 21 over 29 over 2. Again, this is over 1. I want to multiply by the reciprocal, 1/2. And this angle has to be positive because we know it's acute. So that's going to be 1/2 minus 21 over 58. So let's see. If we wanted to simplify this, that would be 29 over 58 minus 21 over 58, which would be 8 over 58. Let's see if we can keep simplifying. 4 over 29. That's probably as simple as it's going to get right there. 4 over 29. So that's not too bad. I understand it's a lot of simplifying, but if you can get to here, you're basically done. So this next problem's essentially the same. So I suppose I can run through it real quickly. We have A, cosine is adjacent over opposite. So again, I now have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So 3 squared plus B squared equals 7 squared. So that's 9 plus B squared equals 49. B squared equals 40. So B is going to end up being 2 root 10. And again, I'm just going to plug it in to these two formulas, these two identities from down here. So the first one is sine 2a equals 2 sine A cosine A. So that's 2 sine A is 2 root 10. over 7, and cosine A is 3 over 7. So we multiply this all together, we get 4 times 3 is 12 root 10 over 49. So again, these aren't going to be the prettiest answers for this type of problem. For sine of A over 2, the half angle, we again plug it in, plus or minus the square root of 1 minus cosine A over 2, plus or minus the square root of 1 minus cosine A is 3/7 over 2. So 7/7 minus 3/7 is 4/7. So you get, and again, we know this is going to be positive because it's an acute angle, so I can get rid of the plus or minus. 4/7 over 2 multiplied by the reciprocal of the denominator. So you get the square root of 4 over 14, square root of 2 over 7. And I'm perfectly fine with you leaving your answer like that. If you'd like to rationalize, you would get, let's see, root 7, root 14 over 7 if you rationalized. So that is essentially the gist of what's going to be on the quiz tomorrow. It's mainly the first 12 problems. The first 12 problems, and there'll be one like 14 or 15 on there. So it's not too difficult. Hopefully you guys are understanding this material, and so we can get a good grade in before Thanksgiving. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps, and you guys do a great job on your quiz tomorrow. Have a good night.